Wellness for Life is brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mahabi Atwa Community Action Partnership, Natural Alternatives, and Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic.
Hi there, I'm Matthew Koffenberg, physical therapist and owner of Back in Motion Physical Therapy in Perham as well as Park Rapids, Minnesota. Today I thought I'd talk about temporomandibular joint dysfunction. A lot of people call it TMJ. TMJ just means temporomandibular joint. You need to add the D for dysfunction on there if you're talking about a painful jaw. What is the TMJ? Well, the TMJ is where the jaw and the skull meet. So if we look at my beautiful drawing, we've got a picture of the skull. And so the skull is this large, it's actually made up of several bones, but where the jaw and that skull meet, that creates our TMJ, our temporomandibular joint. That joint is controlled by a number of muscles. So I drew in a couple of muscles, like the two main big ones. You've got one that starts from the lower part of the jaw and comes up to the joint called the masseter. And then you've got one kind of on the side of your skull, and then it comes down to the jaw. That's called the temporalis. Those are kind of the two big muscles that help control the movement of that joint. The joint itself does have cartilage, so that thin blue line is representing cartilage. So that cartilage actually should kind of wrap all the way around. Cartilage is basically a protective structure. You really don't want bone to hit bone, so most of our joints have this thin piece of cartilage that keeps the bone away from hitting the secondary bone. And then the thicker blue structure on this drawing is actually a disc. So there is an articular disc within the jaw joint that helps smooth out the motion. Unfortunately, that disc can create some issues, which we'll get to here in a second. Why do people have pain in their jaw? There's lots of reasons, but I wrote down 4 of them. You can either start losing your cartilage, so that thin piece of cartilage can actually start to go away. If that cartilage goes away, then bone will hit bone, and then that really becomes quite painful. As any joint, if you start losing that cartilage and the bone hits the bone, it's going to be very painful. The same thing can happen in the jaw. You can also have what's called disc displacement. This is typically the main culprit. So again, that articular disc can be displaced. So we'll move over to this other side. So this first section is going to kind of break down what should normally happen when the jaw opens. So I've basically taken this section and I've moved it over to here. So this is the jaw, this is the skull. And in between the skull and the jaw, you have this disc. So normally when someone starts to open their jaw, the jawbone will slide forward and the disc will slide right with it. And then as you close, it'll just kind of slide right back into its place. That's normal mechanics. The jaw comes forward, the disc comes with it, it then slides back when you close and the disc comes with it. If the disc gets displaced, then we can have some issues and we can have some problems. So over the course of time, with all the times that you're opening and closing the jaw, at some point that disc can actually get stuck right there. So that is dysfunction. So in this scenario, this is a closed jaw. That disc has now gotten stuck in front of it. So now when someone wants to open it, the jawbone is still going to slide forward and it's going to slide underneath the disc. And when that jaw comes so if this is your disc and this is the jawbone, it'll come underneath it and you'll actually hear or feel a click because it's actually clicking and hitting that disc and then it clicks underneath it. And then when you go to close it, the disc doesn't come with it, it's just stuck there. So the bone comes back, so you've got your bone here and it comes back and you'll hear a second click. So it's very, very common to hear clicking. So if you've got clicking in your jaw when you open and close it, it's because your disc has moved forward. Now initially that doesn't usually become a problem, but over time, every time that bone hits the disc, that disc can wear down. And when that disc starts to wear down, it creates inflammation, and then you can have all sorts of pain within the jaw. third thing that can happen is those muscles, and again, it's mainly those two big muscles, but they can go into spasm due to overuse. If you're using it a little too much, and that jaw and the muscle just isn't quite ready, it can kind of spasm. That's the easiest thing to take care of. A lot of times we'll just take a needle, like an acupuncture type needle, and actually put it right into those muscles, and that'll calm that muscle down. The final thing is posture. Posture does play a role. If you kind of have to imagine this, but if someone has poor posture, what happens is the head slides forward. So it not only slides forward, but the skull actually tips this way. So if the skull tips that direction, that bone and that bone actually come closer together, and they'll actually squish one another. You can squish the cartilage can wear down. You can squish the disc can start to wear down. So poor posture does lead to jaw dysfunction. If you have any issues with your jaw, you really should come and speak with me and perhaps start a treatment program. There's lots of simple exercises that can be done to help reduce that dysfunction and pain. A couple of things I just want to make sure that you do avoid. If you do have any issues with your jaw, if you have any pain, just make sure at this point you stop chewing gum, you stop biting your nails, you really watch your posture, try to keep yourself upright, and you really want to avoid resting that chin on your hand, because that's just going to compress the jaw, and that's not going to help you at all. Please call me if you have any issues, 218-346-2464.
Thank you for watching Wellness for Life. Brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mahabi Atwa Community Action Partnership, Natural Alternatives, and Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic.